Instagram on the digital media where I could share it?
You can share the links. Actually, if you want to, let's see. Would I think? Let me not show that. Let me edit that so I can just click it. I think if we share that, it will have all the links. Is that? This is not ours, is it? No, it's not. Our link tree is not right. Our link tree that I have here on Instagram is going to the wrong thing. Arg. What is our link tree then? Did it track? Ah, it's linked. Okay. See, that's the other thing that people forget about being professional. Being professional is not perfect. All right, so it's DC Digital Media Track, and actually, I'll just leave that up. It's so hard to go live on Instagram. But I'd love to. But I got the information to Tyra. I don't know if she's able to put together anything this afternoon. And sometimes, and she teaches, and she's got a million things going on. So sometimes we can get it done or not. I will share this with you. Let me do it in Discord. I created a little cover art for tonight. Nothing's fancy, but you can use that to promote if you like.
Sure, nice.
How long? Okay, I will ask you that question. How long did it take you? How many poses to get that perfect picture with the little smirk and the eyes and the posing and the?
Honestly, the photographer that I worked with.
I lost your audio.
Oh, is it coming through? Okay, can you hear me?
Nope, something went wrong. Let me see. Oh, no. Let me play something on my side. Let's see if I did something wrong somehow.
Yeah, I didn't touch anything.
Okay, I went to YouTube. Okay, so YouTube is okay. Why am I not hearing you? Because YouTube is hearing you.
Huh?
What in the world? And they're talk again for me.
Something.
Okay, so recording and what just happened? I just lost you. What is going on? Hold on, man. It's got to be on my side. But something just clicked. Something just flipped.
Yeah.
And what's funny is when
Discord,
when you're talking, so I'm gonna go to YouTube again. Because watching the live, it heard you. Like if I'm playing back the live now. So go ahead and say something for me.
Something.
What is going on? Yeah, absolutely. So I'm watching the YouTube playback. Oh, it says mute. Why does it say mute? How did what did I click on? Okay, stupid Firefox. It was Firefox.
Is it working now?
It's working now. But it's just that one tab. It's just right here on StreamYard that I must have accidentally clicked the little speaker symbol when I was clicking through some tabs. Okay. And it muted this. It's like I have never experienced that before. It's like, why can I not? Why could YouTube hear you and I can't? That's the problem. Hello, Sarah Rose. How are you doing? Hey, Facebook's good. So Sarah's over on Facebook. Very cool. Oh, I guess I need to do another banner. All right, added that one. Let's move that up here. So I can't believe I've been promoting the wrong link tree for I don't know how many. Well, probably about a month now because we redid a lot of this back in late January, but still.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we'll probably get Tyra to try to make a post for people to do the follow-up video. So you can definitely link them. So on the correct link tree, submit your panels, sponsor of the track, does me a Discord, Twitch streams, YouTube is there, Facebook's, yeah, Instagram's there. So all the links are there. Travis, I am not sure if I've gotten him access. Apparently I've not gotten him access to Instagram yet. I've got to get Travis access to Instagram, and he's making some reels and some cuts of all these different things and putting them out on TikTok for us and Instagram. So you'll be tagged there as well. Random Kid, what is up, man? Drinking some scotch. I am not tonight. I've got some stuff to do after the show because I'm going to be gone for a couple of days after this with work stuff. So I've got to actually break down half of my studio to go with me. So I won't start drinking. If I drink at all, it'll be much later this evening. But I will be doing one of my Scotch Gautier videos on TikTok this weekend when I'm at the hotel. So there you go, Random Kid. We'll put that out. That's over on TikTok is at Rock Gotta Podcasting. You can find it there. All right. So you know what? We're close enough. I will pop out our promotion here. Don't want to do YouTube? I'll probably do YouTube. It's just one of the easier. You know what? Let's do Twitch. Are you? I literally don't know what any licensing does or doesn't do. But are you qualified to do like IQ tests or ADHD tests or anything like that?
So I don't do IQ tests and I don't do like psychological testing, but I do assessments. So I can assess and diagnose like ADHD, autism, bipolar, like things like that.
I'm going to regret this interview tonight. I'll probably come out with some diagnoses.
No, I have a very strict policy of not diagnosing my friends and colleagues.
you don't good. You don't do flyby diagnosis like, hey, thanks for the interview. By the way, you're bipolar schizophrenic. Thanks. Bye.
Right. By the way, here's some things that you might not have noticed about yourself.
Yeah. All right, Discord. But that could be an interesting drinking game to play on the stream one night is come with how many questions would you need for somebody to answer for you to give a 3,000-foot view? Hey, you might look into this. Fun, no seriousness to it. Diagnose type things.
Like just like playing around with it, things like that. Yeah. I mean, I definitely can have fun with people, just kind of like joking around and being like, okay, these are some indicators of some things that you might want to look into, like fairly easily by hearing people's like life experiences and how they perceive the world.
I like it. Promotion, there it is. I found it fascinating in the early days of podcasting. Maybe not in the early days, about mid-range. So I guess about 10, 15 years ago. No, let's call it 10. Anyway, I'm bad with time. I'm quite horrible with time. But a little while back, and long before COVID, there was a team of a male and female psychologists, I want to say, that did Batman characters, basically. They like read through the books and singled out a character, and they started saying, well, this would probably be their diagnosis. And it was fascinating for a while. It just got repetitive ultimately.
Sure. Yeah. I love it when people do case studies of characters and stuff like that, though. I think it's a really interesting way to kind of like break down the characters that we love and like the pieces of them that are significant and things like that. I'm not a huge fan of like diagnosis in general, as far as just like giving people labels that are going to go with them forever. But with fictional characters, it's really fun to play around with.
I disagree with this assessment from Random Kid. Charles has delusions of grandeur. I have confirmations of grandeur, sir, not delusion. This is the delusion part that I disagree with.
Confirmations of grandeur. I love it.
You like that one? Uh, I don't know. Oh, I got that changed. So on the show last week, I was talking about my kids, and my son is about to be 19, and he's done with school and he's working, and this is other stuff. And but I said ultimately with my children, I just want them to be happy.
Sure.
And somebody said, somebody his girlfriend and this and that, and it's like, I better be ready to be a grandpa. It's like, look, Ricky Bobby, don't you put that juju out there right now. I wouldn't be mad at him, but he's 19. That's early on. So let's go ahead and get rolling.
Sure.
This is a live recording of Finding the Stories here on CON-ections with Creators, where we do the digital media track at Dragon Con's weekly show. I say it's I'm pushing it. I need more kids to come take over. So maybe if everybody treats Nick correctly, he will come on and do flyby assessments. I don't know, but or better yet, talk about how to cosplay and stay optimistic, because while I'm sure cosplay and optimism is a whole broad.
Oh, you've just disappeared. I only see myself. Oh.
Okay, it literally, I'm sitting here doing the intro, and StreamYard went, "Hey, something went wrong." I just hit try again, and it just spread. Okay, it's one of those things, everybody. But I am going to attempt. Hello, Jennifer. I am going to attempt to do a fun story thing. I thought this would be great because Nick has such an amazing variety of how to speak and talk and the topics you can speak on. And I was saying that cosplay and optimism is a broad spectrum of things. But even if you take it literally, as a cosplayer, I am sure you get tons of negativity and tons of mental anguish and this kind of thing. So we're going to start with some of the easy things to get us in. We've been warming up for the last 20 minutes or so. But Nick, for everybody at home, what does the LCMHC behind your name mean?
Yeah, it means I'm a licensed clinical mental health counselor. So it's a lot of letters and a lot of jargon just to say that I'm a therapist.
Now, and honestly, quick question. Like I've used BetterHelp, and I've used some things, but I know there is a difference between a counselor, and that's somebody who basically, in my experience, has been somebody who listens and maybe kind of guides and gives some advice, versus psychiatrist. And I'm sure, just like in the pre-hospital world where I work in, there's levels of everything in between. So roughly, what would you say? Where's your line of, hey, I need to bump you up, or where's your line of okay, that's the beginner level, down here I'm more mid-range to high range? How does that work in your titling?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of different levels and different distinctions. Of course, there are, licensed clinical social workers, licensed clinical mental health counselors, a psychiatrist, like that's your doctor, your med provider who's on the mental health side of the medical field and stuff. And so, as far as like working with people, I work with a lot of ADHD, autism, depression, anxiety, a lot of those kind of things. But when they're seeking meds for helping with brain chemistry and stuff like that, that's when I refer to a psychiatrist. That's where the next level is needed. And so a lot of people will work with me and a psychiatrist to make sure that they're getting interventions they need as well as medications they need.
And that is definitely something I have seen. Is I never really felt like I needed the medication. I just needed some outlets and some talking, some guidance. I've known people who did, and I saw the difference. Like the person doing the medication was definitely more of a doctor. Asked a lot of similar questions as the counselor, but then just went, okay, you definitely seem to fit this bill. Here's what we're going to do with the medication, and we'll keep tweaking it. Come back to me in a month. But there's nothing in between. So the therapist, the counselor part of it would be the continuing talk. Second question. Is that the couch I get to lay on if I come visit you professionally?
It would make a lovely fainting couch, but no, my people just sit and talk to me.
Cool. All right. So obviously you went all out. You're matching your photo, which is a great photo. And that's what went wrong in the audio earlier, which I muted the tab. But I was saying, how long did it take you to take that awesome photo? Because I'll be the the Delusions of Grandeur guide tonight. I had no problems with that. As a creator, I want to look amazing. I want to have the best shots of me. I want to look at like, man, look at that dude. And it is very hard from a personal standpoint to get that picture, it gets out of my own head to say objectively, without all my criticisms, that's a great photo. So I see that photo of yours and I know you had to put work into it. How do you get past that criticism in your own head to go, this is objectively a great promo photo?
Yeah, so that's an interesting thing. Like something that helps with that is that I've been cosplaying for about 12 years, and so I'm a lot more comfortable in front of the camera and a lot more comfortable seeing photos of myself than I was several years ago. And then on top of that, the photo Jonan who took that photo just I felt like captured me so well. And the reason I use that particular one, with the cane and stuff, is that in my Riddler cosplay, it's just my regular hair, my regular glasses, and so it feels enough like me, but also enough like a character, a theatrical thing to kind of encompass what I do.
And you say your regular hair, you didn't just crawl out of bed. You put some effort into your hair. I mean, because if you crawl out of bed and you have hair perfectly styled that way, I need to know what you're smoking because that's how. And this is the photo that we're speaking of. But you got the pose, you got the hair, you got everything rocking. It's really awesome.
Yeah,
What
it does take effort, that's sure for sure, because I have naturally curly hair. So you're right. I can't just roll out of bed, or else I just have a fluff, just a massive like fluff that's not in like any kind of order. So I do have to do the leave-in conditioner and all that to make it actually like go the direction I want it to.
it's a thing when I for many years, well over a decade now, I refuse to say negative things about myself. And I do still like to say things about it takes a lot of work to look this good, kind of thing. And it kind of does. Now, what's funny is I've trained this to do mostly everything. Like I haven't touched my hair in 2 or 3 days. Like whereas it's con, it's going to be pristine the whole time. And even then, it's still fairly close to the trademark faux hawk thing that I get going. But enough about hair. This is not the hair podcast. I just like you do a lot of great work there. So let's dig in. First off, why the Riddler? What is? Are you a huge Batman fan? What's the deal with the Riddler? What attracted you there?
Yeah, I've always been a huge fan of Batman villains. I just thought they've really done a great job of just capturing, strong female characters, strong male characters. Like they just bring in a lot. And well, one, green's my favorite color. I always like wearing a suit. And Gotham, the TV show's version of Riddler, I thought
Yeah,
encompassed his background and his like mental health and journey and like descent and split and everything so well that I was like, that's the version I want to go for.
and that with your promo photo and obviously your choice tonight, that seems to be your kind of a keystone cosplay. But you do other characters. What are some of your other characters, or what are some of your other favorite cosplays?
Yeah, one of my current favorites is I just recently started doing Spider-Man from the Insomniac PS5 game. I love doing that. One of my first cosplays I really bonded to was Fenris from Dragon Age 2. I've done a lot of like Mystic Messenger. I've done Poison Ivy. Like I've done like such a broad gamut, but Riddler has definitely been one of my staples, especially because, like I said, I feel like myself and I feel approachable, even though I'm still kind of like this like crazy persona.
And Kaz says it's themed for March too.
Yeah.
Both no May is Mental Health Day, May 10th. Sorry, I was saying March is mental health, so it's like both in the green for Irish and also the mental health month, but it's May. It's gotta be May. I'm sorry. Um, stop with the phone calls. Thank you. Childhood. Most people don't seem to just wake up one day and I'm going to cosplay, and then it becomes to the level you're at. I mean, that's a very tight suit. That's a very well put together cosplay. Was cosplaying was dressing up, was costuming, anything like that? Was that always on your radar?
Growing up, Halloween was always my favorite holiday. I had always loved dressing up. I was also in theater, so there was a lot of costume elements to that and stuff. But I didn't know anything about cosplay until I was in high school. And when I found out what it was, I was like, okay, we get to have Halloween every day. I'm in, like, immediately.
Well, from what I understand, the cost of good cosplay every day is uh that's a life to achieve, right? Being able to cosplay every day, because that is not a Walmart level outfit you've put on there,
Sure,
just to put it
absolutely.
bluntly.
Yeah.
Um, so you've got cosplay, you got optimism, you've got the mental health aspect of being a licensed counselor. How did those three fit in your Venn diagram of your life?
Yeah, so definitely cosplay came first. I started cosplaying because I just loved embodying characters, taking different pieces of myself for a walk. I honestly found it to be very therapeutic for myself because I fit myself in a very tight box. When I was younger, I was very much trying to be what people expected me to be, what I was told to be. For my culture, things like that. And cosplay gave me an opportunity to just be like, okay, I can be the Riddler or I can be Harley Quinn and I can just be crazy for a while and I don't have to worry about being so polished and like, the like image I was trying to cultivate, whatever I thought I was doing as a teenager. And so it became a significant thing for me in my own life. And then, I went to school, got my bachelor's and master's in counseling, and then since I've been working in the field, I've started working with other nerds, people who cosplay, who are in fandoms, things like that. And I've really realized that mental health support is so needed for all of us, right? And that a lot of times we go to these con spaces just to be able to have connection with other people, just to be able to express ourselves. And as a therapist, I want to provide a place for that where we're actually able to unpack those things. Why do you love this character? Why does this feel so good? Like, it feels wonderful to me to be able to tie the things that I love into the things that I know that are important.
That seems like a very shorthand recipe for success right there. Tie the things you love and the things that you know are important.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. But you said something that caught my attention there. You like taking pieces of yourself for a walk.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, I got a little bit of that reference. Like, yeah, I could be Harley Quinn, be a little crazy. Elaborate on that. The pieces of yourself. Is there a time when you want to be sad, so you put on more of a sad cosplay? Is there times when you go, no, I'm like almost depressed, I need to be happy, so you're gonna put on something happy? What's the pieces of yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Like the pieces of myself that connect to the characters, right? So one of the things that like I really connect with loving to cosplay Spider-Man is there's a huge element of grief to Peter Parker and his backstory and all of that. And so it's one of those things where it's like I'm able to step into this character and experience like their experience, what's it's like to be them inside their head, to act like that, to be throwing the jokes and the puns and things like that, but still. Also being able to connect to those deeper levels of things like you said, like depression, things like that. And then on the opposite side, sometimes when I'm really not doing well, I need to put on a character that's really confident. I need to step into something that it's like, all right, I'm harnessing the power of like Wonder Woman or like whatever it is, where it's like I'm pulling myself up through the power of this character.
What do you say to the idea that I don't remember where I read it, but I read somewhere that if you like do a Superman pose for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, something like that, that you just feel so much more confident and stronger. Uh, that kind of thing is very helpful to the brain and the brain chemistry. Is that right?
Absolutely. Like that is like spot on. When we change our pose, we change our brain chemistry. Like we're able to tap into things. The like, we hear like fake it till you make it, things like that.
Right.
But like our body literally taps into that. Like if I throw my shoulders back, I put my hands in my, superhero pose, I'm grounded into the ground. One, it's like, connecting me to the earth, right? That's very powerful. And then just like harnessing that like brings in a lot and makes sure your brain release the good chemicals, right? The like I can do this stuff.
That's probably one of the secret sauces of Dragon Con. It does break my heart when people go to get ready to leave, like a Monday, and then they talk about that post con depression,
Yeah.
because it's such a boost of serotonin, because it is that it's almost universal. And when the way people talk about Dragon Con to one level or another, that I get to be me here, I find my group here. It's a freedom, it's a breath of fresh air, it's a break from reality, whatever they say, but it's all that same version of Superman pose. They're at Dragon Con for 4, 5, 6 days, and then they go home, and it's like, man, everything is in that Matrix white filter when he's in the interrogation room, and it's just bland and something's off, and that part breaks my heart. And that's what I'd like to try to do here throughout the weeks, is give people some of that boost of I don't know, I probably said it wrong, but serotonin or whatever it is that gets them that, like, oh no, I feel real here.
Yeah.
If you don't have your cosplay, let's say you're in the middle of a day of therapy sessions, but you're having a moment. We both deal with people's bad moments in life. I'm a paramedic, you're a therapist, and at different levels we're just catching them at the worst moments in their life. There's got to be moments where maybe midday is building up on you. Can you still mentally cosplay and have that effect?
Yeah, absolutely. Things just like you said of like, striking the superhero pose, like stepping into that mindset of like, what would Wonder Woman do? What would, you know what I mean? Like tapping into some of that, you can absolutely do. And also a lot of times I'll do like casual closet versions of cosplays to go to work, so that like I'm bringing an element with me, or I'll wear my Spider-Man socks, or I'll, have something like that where it's like I'm able to tap into some of this energy, this, connection that's helpful for me throughout the day.
That's good. I learned this concept from a business coach late last year. And I mean, even as I say on paper, it's like it doesn't quite make sense, but it clicked. And when something clicks and it internalizes, it becomes that thing for me. And as we create our own energy. And once
Mhm.
that concept was just, and there's nothing magic to it. I mean, this particular business coach was like relating what they had learned. It's like, oh, you stand up, you wiggle your arms, do all this stuff. It's like, I'm too busy for that. But I understood the concept. And now, I mean, as soon as I understood the concept of, oh, I can believe that, I create my own energy. Now when I wake up, I'm not nearly as tired anymore. Yeah, I get physically tired, but it's not that mental drag. I'm not losing things. And that's similar to what you're talking about with these mindsets of what would Wonder Woman do, or your Riddler, or the things. It's how how would you explain that concept? I'm obviously having trouble getting the words out. How do we change that mental switch? Because that's all it was a mental switch of I went from I hate mornings and oh my god, I'm only gonna get 5 hours of sleep. And I went from that to I create my own energy. So when I go to bed tonight, I'm gonna sleep and I'm gonna wake up and be fine. And it was just a life. How does that happen?
Yeah, it's honestly it's so mysterious how the brain works, right? It's these little perspective shifts, these little light switch flips that make all the difference, And with with things like harnessing cosplay and pop culture and things like that, it's just like a resource, like a mental toolkit, of like these are things I know I have access to, right? Like I know I have access to this pose, I know I have access to grounding, I know if I glance down at my bracelet that's got Batman on it, it reminds me of something, right? Like, yeah, there you go. Yeah, like
Yeah.
what is this a reminder of, And just like being able to access those resources for ourselves. Sometimes they're very mental. It's like I don't have any representative item, but I know what I'm doing. And sometimes it's like we just need something to cue us in, be it like something on our desk or something on our socks or things like that to just like cue us into that resource.
But the resource really is us.
Mhm.
That's I'm still working on that one. I'm still diving into that one.
Yeah.
But let's talk about more of who you are and where you came from, because that's what fascinates. I mean, the doing. I could ask you mental health questions all night long, and you
Sure.
didn't come here to do a free hour of sessions. So, uh, um, uh, what moment, what trauma, what thing happened in your life that you eventually said, "Oh, I dealt with that. Now I can help other people," and that led you into becoming a therapist or a counselor,
Yeah.
or whatever the title officially is.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's interesting because I didn't initially start, going to college to be a therapist. I was originally looking at like ophthalmology. I knew I wanted to help people, but I wasn't really sure how. I was like, maybe something medical, things like that. But the switch that really flipped is during my first year of college, my childhood best friend died by suicide.
Mm.
And that was just something that I didn't know how to deal with. I didn't know how to reckon with. I didn't have the resources for it. I didn't have my own therapist. I didn't really know anything about mental health. And then I was taking a psychology course. I think it was the next semester actually. And someone came in and talked about the counseling program at the school and like what that was and what they did. And I was like, all right, that's my path. I don't want anyone to feel the way that he felt that led him down that path. And I don't want anyone to feel the way I felt, which is dealing with grief and not having a clue how to handle it.
How much time did it take for you to learn how to handle that grief?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's still an ongoing process. You know, it's still something that I'm working through because it wasn't something that I really learned as a child and as an adolescent, how to talk about it, how to deal with it, how to process it. And honestly, it's interesting. I used to really struggle with the Spider-Man franchise because I couldn't handle the grief element of it. It would make me like too
Gotcha.
uncomfortable. I couldn't sit with it. But now that I've done my own grief work, I love being a part of the Spider-Man fandom. I love cosplaying Peter Parker because I feel like I'm a lot more able to handle it and to move through those things when they come up.
There's something to be said about embracing your darkness. You know, we for whatever reason we want to shy away from the things we don't like about ourselves, or yeah, I hate and it could be a clinical term, I don't know, but I definitely hate the term intrusive thoughts. So no, they're just thoughts. It's why, oh, that to me that indicates they shouldn't be there, they're intruding, but they came from you, they're not coming from anywhere else, and now you're hating a part of you. And I know I probably would not surprise you at all. And definitely in the medical field, I'm tame compared to some of the things that people say and do. But I've just embraced that side of like, no, there's some dark jokes I'll make. There's some thoughts like, hey, did you ever think about XYZ? But it's not a scary thing. It's not, I don't understand that fear of self. Uh, because I had a trauma really early on. I was 12 years old, and I won't go into all that. But
Sure.
it took me another decade from that to really start working on. I worked on a lot of it, but I went, I literally came to a moment where it's like, either I end it all or I burn the world. And from my mind, that was the only two choices. And there's nothing in between. I chose burn the world, which then became a positive later to be less destructive. Um, but in that process, the world didn't end, and I didn't end, and I didn't lose everything in my life and everything I love. So that you just have to, you can't just choose happiness all the time, but you can be optimistic in the darkness.
Sure. Yeah. And like with what you're describing, a lot of times people reach that wall where it's like, I can't do this anymore. And when people come to me with that and they're like, I can't do this anymore, I'm like, okay, then let's not do this. Let's do something else, right? Like, let's change it. If your
Yeah.
life has to end, let's end life as you know it. Try something else on
Yeah.
before we go to that final option, right? Where there's no coming back.
Yeah. You know, not all death is literal death, you know, and sometimes you have to now cause disagrees, and she has a right to be wrong. It's okay. I'm just kidding, cause I play, she knows what I know her. I must say I disagree with you, Charles. Thoughts do intrude. Uh, I think the only way they can intrude if you don't open the door and invite all of it in and understand that it's a process. That's just me. It's just me. It's a
Sure.
process. I'm definitely not speaking for Nick or any therapist out there, and not everybody can be where I am in life and where I think. And I might learn something tomorrow that changes some of that thought process. So just take that with a grain of salt. Searing
Sure.
it back into just because I know you think on these levels, my brain just keeps going back to it. But I won't try to bring it to everybody. Let's talk Dragon Con.
Sure.
You've gone for how many years to Dragon Con?
Oh gosh. See, time is it feels so fake since COVID
It
happened.
is.
I'm
Well, time is just fake anyway. It's arbitrary number.
Yeah.
Did you know there's 13 months in the year, not 12? Not if you do the math. All right, sorry.
So I'm trying to think, but I want to say I've been going to Dragon Con for like 6 years, something like that. Like it's been a minute.
Okay. What was your first experience? What got you in? What finally got you to go, okay, I'm gonna go? And then of course I can figure out what you loved about it, but what got you there?
Yeah, so me and my parents were, I believe, visiting family in Georgia, and I knew that it was going on, and I was like, "So, can we go check that out just for like one day, just go see what this is like?" And my parents were like, "Yeah, sure, if you're paying for it." And I was like, "Sure, I'll pay for it," you know. And so I got us the one day badges, and we went and checked it out, and I was just so overwhelmed with the scale of it because I had been to smaller conventions, but I had no idea that it's just everyone in everything from like every piece of media you could imagine, you know. And my parents loved it too. Like I got a picture of my parents kissing in the TARDIS. Like it's so sweet. Like it's
Nice.
great.
Nice. How old were you?
Oh, let's see. Yeah, because I would have been like I want to say I was like 19 or something the first year.
Okay. Gotcha. It's unusual to have a first Dragon Con experience with parents. And I'm not saying you're an old soul. And I definitely wouldn't peg you over 19 because I'm gonna be nice. but yeah, I mean that it's not that long ago that you started going, but also it's cool. I mean, you could be 40 and take your parents. It's just an unusual story. It's interesting, but they loved it, huh? They really enjoyed it.
Yeah, they had a great time. And like, you know, conventions aren't really their thing, but like they loved the people watching and they loved seeing me that excited. So it was a really good experience.
Have they gone back?
No, they haven't gone back. Honestly, I think they might, like when I'm doing a panel or something, to like come and check that out, but they have not since then.
Okay, so DragonCon's not for everybody, but that's okay. A lot. It sounds like they're supportive
Oh,
parents.
100%. My mom was like still helps me like build my cosplays and do things like that. Like I'll send her a picture of a character and be like, "Do you think we can tackle this?" And she's like, "Oh yeah."
Some basic milestones to kind of gauge life experiences. Did you grow up religious?
Yes, very much so. Very evangelical Christian, Southern Baptist.
Yeah, the Baptists are the Catholics of the South. Uh, Roughly south, west, east, north. Where in the country did you
Middle
grow up?
Tennessee, just outside Nashville. Born and raised like all my life there.
Your bottle was moonshine. Understood. Uh, gotcha. Okay. All right. So, what about geekdom? If you are, let's say, you're mid 20ish now, between 20 and 30 now, uh, you catch the like 95 X-Men
Oh yeah,
animation? Okay. And
absolutely.
Batman
But
animated series, but you would have been either in reruns or little, right, at the time, more or
yeah,
less.
absolutely. But yeah, I loved the X-Men cartoon. Oh my gosh.
Oh, now this city. So Jen and I, Kaz and I have been having a little side conversation in the chat. She's talking about what I said about intrusive thoughts, and she talked about earworms and songs, and I was just kind of feeding back to her a little bit. She brought this up. The song might be "You're not worth the trouble you bring to others. Everything you do is wrong." That is very specific. Not literally an earworm, but yeah, that's a very good reference, Kaz, and that is a lie. I mean, it's what I've had to learn about myself is that as a creator, we are our own. I actually, as a human, I'm not even qualified as a creator. As a human, we're our own worst enemies. We're our own critics. The only thing holding us back from anything is ourselves.
True.
If you are religious, I grew up similar. I grew up in South Georgia, Southern Baptist home, all this stuff. So some similar references. I think both of us are at different points in our life where we might have faith, we might have other bigger conversations. So any reference I make aren't just going, "Hey, I'm a Southern Baptist preacher's kid," blah blah, but it is a reference. And that voice of everything you do is wrong. We 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 have to love ourselves, and that's the last thing we do. And when you talk about forcing it, and the feelings of it, it's we especially if you grew up in my experience, and it could be very similar. You could somebody come out of woodwork, like, oh, that was like this type of school, or that was like this type of other kind of group, or blah. But growing up in the church, we're told to essentially hate ourselves.
Yeah.
And I had to learn, like, people go, "You're the self-proclaimed rock guy podcasting." One, nobody's ever asked me. Two, the song I sing to myself from day one, I didn't believe in fake it till you make it, because faking it is still not true. But some version of believe to achieve or whatever. It's like, no, if I don't believe in myself, why is anybody else going to believe in me? And if I don't love myself, and I found myself, cause one day, um, I've been married, still married to the same woman, 23 years, 24, somewhere there, 23 years. And, but we're early on, first 3 or 4 years. And I really remember uh, when I was getting in a fight because she was in the mood and I wasn't. And I was being very moody as it was. And we got into a fight about it. I just remember going to the bathroom, I'm looking in the mirror, and I remember realizing, I was like, how do you love me? I can't, I try to look myself in the eye and I can't love me. And this is late 20s, I'm at this point in my life. And that's that, knowing it's a lie. And no, and you're right there, cause knowing is different than feelings. Facts don't have feelings. And it's so hard to bring facts. I'll throw it to you, Nick. It's so hard to bring facts to things that are voices in our head, that it's just us telling ourselves things that are feelings that we've accepted these messages from other people. That's the reference I was going to. My brain lost it, got back. But in the Bible, this is one of my favorite quotes. I don't quote the Bible often, but it is, God said, "Who told you? Who told you were naked? Who told you?" Because I didn't. And that's, so Nick, how do we deal with these feelings that are not thoughts? The rational thought is, well, I can make this thing, I can do this thing. How do we fight that?
Yeah. And honestly, I could talk on intrusive thoughts for like quite a long time because there are so many different levels of it. There are the levels of it that come along with like certain, diagnoses like OCD, things like that, where they're at this extreme level and we can't shut them down, right? And then there are the different levels of like, how thoughts cycle through with ADHD, right? The different way the brain processes things like that. But it's very true. We can know something logically, intellectually, we can know something and it still not help us because we're not believing it, we're not buying into it, we're not agreeing with it on some level because feelings are kind of connected to just like chemical reactions, things set them off. And so it's a lot to navigate when you have these thoughts popping into your head that are causing these emotions to bubble up that a lot of times are really intense and really bring a lot. But I definitely, agree with what you said. Of course, the center thing being, loving ourselves, accepting ourselves, and finding those resources that we can tap into that like help us feel better, right? A lot of people say coping skills, right? Like skills, truths, mantras, things that we can connect to that bring us back to feeling okay, that bring us back to being regulated, right? Like that I'm all right and this is where I'm at.
Also, and this plays into the Dragon Con aspect of things, where guys, is with the resiliency that you have to have with yourself 100%. But the Dragon Con aspect is, you can be anything you want there, right? So that is that escape for people. That is those other things. But if you don't hold on to that and internalize it as part, you said that phrase, walking parts of yourself. That was such a great turn of phrase there. That if you don't understand that that is a part of yourself and you always have it here where nobody can take it away from you. And I've allowed people's negative thoughts and negative words to intrude, right? But I accepted them. I started writing a book one time and I was really gung ho, and I was like, man, I'm gonna get through the first draft and really work it out. And I got the first chapter and let, at the time, a business partner of mine read it to give me some feedback. And oddly enough, is on mental health, is on the idea of the stages of grief and how we live them backwards and all this other stuff. And so I did this chapter, and I didn't take the good out of it. The good was he was so excited by it. He was so, it hit and landed so well with him. He wanted to be a part of it. But him wanting to be a part of it and kind of trying to take over and kind of, it just ruined it for me. And to this day, I haven't gone back and tried to flesh out the ideas and think that out. And that was a decade ago that happened. And even now, even telling the story now, I see what I did. I realized that I let him ruin it. I realized it wasn't him ruining it. It was me not going, no, this is mine, I'm going to do it anyway. But the good was, it landed so well. He wanted to jump in. We miss that. And that's what I see with some of these panels you got to do last year at DragonCon. Now, last year was the first year you got to do some panels, and you did 3, and I think only 2 of those were with me, right?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
And then the other one was on a different track, and it's all good. See, that's what I love. That's what we want our attending professionals to do is play where you can play, and let's share the love, and let's reach as many people as we can. That's the heart of digital media. Is you can narrow it down to, I just need clicks and views and numbers and fans, or it's really I'm trying to touch as many people as possible. It depends. Two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. I mean, my whole like mission with everything that I do, as as a therapist, as a cosplayer, as a speaker, I'm working on several like writing projects, like things that I working on in different areas of my life, is that the thing that's the most important to me is connection. And I really feel that my purpose and my calling is to connect with others on the realness of what it means to be a person and what it means to be them, and the fact that they're okay and that they're not alone. And so that's what I try to bring into everything.
Kaz says, I loved all your panels. I got to see you were a part of, Nick.
Oh,
So
thank you.
what was one of your favorite? It can be, I mean, just personal. It doesn't have to be a that it just freaked out for a second. Hey, you know what, internet? We're bigger than you. You're not canceling us tonight. You can't cancel us. That's right. You're getting the Hulk on. What was one of your favorite takeaways from any of the panels that you were able to do this past year?
Yeah, I think one of my favorite takeaways was from the like creating with the neurodivergent brain panel, which was really just that we were all of us on the panel are a different version of neurodivergent. There was a lot of ADHD. I think there was some autism, some anxiety. Like across the panel, like we had our own experiences with things like that, and it was awesome to just be able to be like, hey, we might be professionals in our own fields or creators in our own fields or things like that, but we're people just like anyone who's asking us questions, right? We're able to offer advice and offer things to help because we've been there. And obviously, I'm informed by my training as a therapist and things like that, and that helps a lot. But the thing that helps me the most to help other people is to be able to connect with them and to be able to be like, it's not crazy that you've experienced that.
Why is it nerddom, cosplay, mental health? Why is it that every last human being thinks we're the only person to ever do? Oh, I'm the only person who thought the X-Men was cool. I'm the only person at some point in our life, right? I mean, obviously you
Yeah.
see merchandise everywhere. You're not, but why is it we think we're the only one?
Yeah, we're only ever able to see the world through our eyes, through our perspective, through whatever, glasses we're wearing, be they rose tinted or be they like, smeared with manure, right? And so, especially, when we haven't interacted with other people who are like us and who validate our experiences, it can feel like there's no one else. It can feel like you're just going it alone and what's the point? And no one wants to hear me talk and I'm annoying. And, when you haven't found your tribe or your community or people who are open enough with themselves to connect with you, you don't know. You really don't know different.
And as you were talking, I was listening, and the vision I caught there, the imagery I caught there was maybe we're alone because of the immediate inner circle that we're in, our parents, our siblings, or groups right there in life, they don't get it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why sometimes we feel alone. And then we take a big old butter knife and spread it all over everything. Instead of putting mayonnaise, or not mayonnaise, putting butter on the toast, we put butter on the TV and butter on the keyboard. And that's how we just color everything. It's like, well, nobody understands. And then we feel alone. And then, I mean, I still come back to the man. Why, Nick? Why are you making DragonCon sad for me? It is but the sadness of DragonCon is that's the reality to me for some people. As you come in and you go, oh my god, I feel like a human being, I feel like myself, and I can breathe. And you go back to this world where you look at it and it's all buttered and nobody understands, but you did that. You took the butter and you put it on the keyboard. It's supposed to go on the bread, man. Just because they didn't understand your love of Batman and why you want to dress up like Riddler doesn't mean they don't understand why you want to be a therapist or anything else, right?
Yeah,
it's
and I'm glad you
crazy.
mentioned that because we have so many facets as human beings, right? And like identity, sense of self is so nebulous. there's so many things that we are, and so many different ways and places we can connect with people. Like I can connect with a lot of people about mental health that I can't connect with about Teen Titans comics. But the people I connect with about Teen Titans comics might not care about what dialectical behavior therapy is, right? Like it's
Yeah.
just, it's like they're totally different scopes. And I think a lot of times we align ourselves so tightly with one thing that it makes us hard for us to connect with people on the other things that we are, right? It's like if I was just going around only being a cosplayer, I probably wouldn't have a lot of fun and wouldn't have a lot of friends and wouldn't have a lot of connections in just the people I might meet at the store or the people who might, be my neighbors, right? If that was the only thing that I was. But I'm so much more than that. And so is everybody. They have so many facets they can tap into. But it's just Dragon Con is this amazing flood of dopamine where you're able to let all of this out, right? You're able to be like, oh my gosh, there's a person dressed as like that really obscure thing that I watched 18 years ago, and you're able to
Yeah.
be like, let's talk about that. And it's so cool and it's so powerful because it's this freeing space, but we're very capable of freeing ourselves more in our everyday life than people realize.
And it you fail to realize in that moment, right? You get to be free, but you're still internalizing it. That when you share that one little spark of joy, when you recognize that person that, oh my goodness, I saw that, like you said, 18 years ago, and then and you say, oh, you're this thing, or you're that character, and you just share that. Oh, I love your look, and it just that one time of recognition, it
Mm-hmm.
just blows up, and you just change lives with that kind of thing.
Yeah.
When you notice that kind of thing, and that I get that celebrities, on the highest level, right? They get bombarded, they get tired, especially Dragon Con's a job for them, right? So it's very hard to be up all the time and this that, and the other. But I can tell you, for me personally, I hope I never get to a spot to where I'm like, just leave me alone. Because the fact that you're sharing a moment that I touched your life, you want to, and not that I get this often, but you want a picture with me, or you want an autograph, or you just want to share, hey, you said this thing 3 cons ago or on one of your shows. And it didn't have to change your life. It landed with me. It meant something to me. That's why I do everything that I do, you
Yes.
know, plus the millions of dollars that come in. But uh,
Yeah, the
but
connection means so much. Like you're so right.
everything.
It like
Yeah.
it can change somebody's life to see someone dressed as something that they like, and it can change someone's life to be dressed as something and to get a compliment. Like it goes all the way around. I know for me, like one of the first times I cosplayed as Starfire, I had these little kids just like run up to me and be like, Starfire, and it was just so precious. They were like, and mom was like, can they have a picture with you? And I'm like, they can hang out with me all day. I'm like, you know what I mean? Like they're just happy to see me and I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. Before I move on, Kaz says I'm now a certified peer specialist. Kaz works with a local hospital in the children's ward too, and you're not alone is one of my biggest messages. That's 100% why I started podcasting. In August, it'll be 20 years I've been podcasting, and I got in very early, and that was my thing. Was I felt alone. I couldn't go to my father and talk about marriage because he was very passive in his. I mean, same woman all my life, whatever, same mother, blah. But he's very passive, and we didn't have that connection. So I'm like, I can't go talk to him about these things. I talked to all my friends who are not married; they don't get the intricacies of it. I felt alone. And I went, but my brain is super strong. It's super strong bad. And it knows statistics. And it knows statistically in the billion some odd people on the planet, I cannot be alone. So I'm going to turn on this microphone and I'm just going to word vomit all over it and emotionally fire hose the crap out of anybody who's listening.
Yeah.
And surely somebody's out there. And sure enough, 7 episodes in, because this is on the 8th episode. I got the email and got to read on the 8th episode. 7 episodes in, somebody wrote me and went, oh my God, you're talking about my family. And thank you for sharing some of the insights that you had on how you dealt with yours. And that was all I needed to keep going strong. And I keep needing that. I keep needing to refuel that. So people telling me I meant something to them. That's my bread and butter there. But Nick, did you on any of your panels get anybody to come up to you specifically afterwards and ask you specific questions or say thank you for what you said?
Oh, absolutely. You know, and I've found that at like any con that I've spoken at, there have been people who have come up to me afterwards and just been like, "Thank you for sharing that. I related to, you know, blank piece, or this meant something to me." And you know, it means so much to me to be able to help these people see pieces of themselves reflected in me or in my work or in things like that. And that's the whole point. Like my whole purpose in life is connection. Like that's why I'm here.
Do you find it hard to not apologize for things at some points? Not when you did wrong, but oh, I'm sorry, but I'm going to say this thing, and I get teased. You know, something early on, a random kid said, because I said I won't say bad things about myself, and he was joking. He's interacted with me in a lot of different shows I've done, or them. I don't know. Could be a alien for all I know. It's random kid number 71 or whatever. But they jokingly, they're like, you know, yeah, you don't need to say bad stuff. Everybody else says it for you. We got you, man. and that is kind of the balance. The more I lean into, I'm not sorry. I'm going to tell you that I've done podcasting this long. I'm going to tell you why I think what you're doing is right or wrong. I'm going to tell you my biggest fight is not telling people why I'm right, is telling them why wouldn't you want to be in my world? When I'm seeing the good in you and telling you this is good, this is good, this is good, and you go, nah, that was the biggest. I'm gonna throw this phrase to you, Nick, and let you run with this. That was the biggest thing that changed me in religion. I got out of religion early, late teens, but you know, it's embedded in you. When you grow up in it, it's embedded. It's the only world I knew. So trying to get
Yeah.
therapy, I went to a Christian counselor, did a year of therapy. It helped, outgrew them. And I just kept trying to chase stuff. And I ended up at the Church in the Now is what it was called, who ended up, the reason I connected there is the bishop, mega church in Atlanta, ended up coming out and talking about his gay life and no scandals. That was key for me. No scandals, no touches. His wife at the time knew before they ever got married, knew. And they felt like they're supposed to get married anyway and have kids and work through things and all this other. So no lies, no scandals. And of course, a lot of people in the church left, but that's when I went in. And one of the things he said early on, he's talking about this to me at the time, a kind of a radical shift in belief and perspective on religion, life, ourselves, talking about personal responsibility, but it's a positive. And here's the phrase. Because I feel I feel all of you out there right now, a lot of you're resisting, fighting, and but this and but that. But my answer to you is, why wouldn't you want to live in this world? Why wouldn't you want to let go of all the negativity and crap you're holding on to and live in this one? And that was another light switch moment for me that I internalized instantly and went, that's it. And that's how I try to come across. And I do find, and coming back to my question of apologizing, sometimes I feel like the thing I'm about to say comes off egotistical, but it's because I know I'm right. And sometimes that confidence, again, the messages from people, oh, you, it's an ego. Yeah, baby, it's an ego because you got to believe before you say stuff, because people don't say stuff they don't believe in. They call preachers. I'm sorry. No, that's not true. My dad was a preacher. He actually believed in what he said. And again, no scandals. But do you, with all that long ass story, do you have problems just not saying, hey, this is from a panel, from a personal perspective, this is my thing. I know you might not like it, but it's a real thing. Or do you go, I'm sorry, but
Sure. Yeah. So I'm a recovering people pleaser. So as a recovering people pleaser, I've had to work on not apologizing for things a lot. I've had to really, you know, check myself over the years and learn that no, like I mean what I say. I know what I'm saying. I'm educated. I'm an expert in my field. I am number one above all an expert on me.
there
And
you
so I'm
go.
for dang sure not going to apologize for things that are my life experiences and things like that. But yeah, it's been a process to learn not to be like, oh, I'm sorry to bother you. Oh, do you mind if I, you know, to walk on eggshells like that? I had to really train myself not to walk on eggshells because there's no reason. If there's a room that I have to walk on eggshells in, I'm not going to go in that room. That's just, you know, they should sweep those up and then I'll come in. So,
yeah. When I was 14, I hit 6 foot. I was probably heavier than actually I am now. I mean, I was a fat kid for sure. And when my wife first started talking about eggshells, you're walking on eggshells, and part of that was me because I was angry all the time. But before that, even my mom was talking about things, and I'm like, I said kind of the same thing, but I was more of an asshat about it, to be honest. I was like, I can't walk on eggshells. It won't work. I love watching the samurai movies, and one of the things is walking on rice paper without crinkling it. I'm an elephant, man. I'm gonna put potholes in the ground. So you better get the eggshells away. But here's a phrase I think you might like that I adopted early on. Loved, and the reason when my signpost is which X-Men did you get into 95 is my key point. And I haven't watched the new 97 one or whatever they did, but I want to. Um, but it was my mutant power. And I tell people, especially as I start working closely with you and we're going to work on a project, I sit everybody down that I've ever worked with and say, okay, you need to understand something about me. My mutant power is whatever you have in your life that is sensitive or needs protecting and nobody knows about, you need to deal with that because I will step in it and never have a clue. I mean, I have a clue because you'll explode and be all crazy and stuff, but it's never intentional. But I've done that with everybody I've worked with. That some people just can't work with me. I mean, I don't mean like on an interview or a project, but like partners, like we're building something together because I won't say who it was, but I did build something with somebody that was really good, and we were really doing some great things. And we ended up parting ways because of life, and we're still great friends. And it was a path thing, but before that path even hit, one of the rocky roads was we were building a community together. And I have a very clear vision of I will not let anybody co-opt what I'm doing, period. And I mean, I'm brutal about it. I literally used a phrase, even though it wasn't physical, it's all through Discord. But I used a phrase, I stepped on this dude's neck until he let go because this was my baby and you're not going to come in and try to poison it. And my partner just did not care for that tactic. He didn't care for any of that. A little bit of the people pleaser, a little bit of the imposter syndrome. And that's one of the things. And one of the things he said is, which blew my mind, because in my mind he was bigger than I was and what he was doing, and I was more or less attaching my star to him. But his phrase to me was, I feel like I've attached my star to the Charles McFall train, and Charles is burning it to the ground. And two things landed with me. It's like, one, you attach your star to me. That's cool. That gives me a boost on, okay, I'm doing something that you felt like could bring you up. That's a cool, and we still work together to do that. But the other thing was, no, I am sometimes burn it down McFall because I'm not afraid of death. I'm not afraid of rebuilding because I'd rather go out on my terms and doing it right in my vision than not. So with that, what is your mutant power? What is the thing that I feel like everybody has one that, and you inevitably do that. You have to explain to somebody, no, in certain terms, hey, if you're going to be with me, you need to understand that it can be rough because I just naturally do X, Y, Z.
Yeah. If you're gonna be with me, you're gonna have to be prepared for the fact that I'm going to be living up to the optimism name, and I'm not gonna let anybody steep me in crap. And if we're bringing in negativity, and if we're bringing in complaints and things like that, that I just don't handle it. I just don't. I'm like, here's the way we can solve that. If we're not going to solve it, then it's not what I need in my life, because I'm very much from the place of just like you said, why wouldn't you want to live in this way that's happier, in this way, in these things that are different, is that I'm just, I'm not here for negativity. And obviously, if it's totally different, I'm doing therapy with you. Tell me all your crap, we'll process it.
Well, yeah, because you have to
friends with me. If you're friends with me, I'll just be like, bye.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I get it. Kaz says here that I'm sorry is almost my before talking. And I've had to learn a few things along the way. One is to learn to accept gratitude. I was a people pleaser when I was young, active in the church, and then my trauma was with the church. It wasn't anything like sexual abuse, anything like that. It was all emotional, and I believe that Jesus was this, and then I saw Jesus people throw us out on the street and blah blah blah. But that's neither there. So I went from people pleasing to I'm gonna just roll right over you.
Yeah.
But having somebody go, you did this great thing, and my instinct going, nah. I had to learn to go, thank you and accept. That is so hard. I had to learn to stop saying that, like God says, that I'm sorry about everything. And it's interesting that since I've gotten through it, I have a fairly sizable staff underneath me in the company that I run, and I have a sizable management staff. And there's many times that they will call me or they'll ask me something, or they'll come knock on my door into my office and come say, "Hey, I'm sorry." And it's like, what are you apologizing for? I mean, I think I might have even done that to cause. And it's a little
Yeah.
soft pop in the face, like, stop apologizing, especially at 4 in the morning when you call me and wake me up because there's a problem. I've told everybody bluntly, if you apologize, I'm gonna hang up on you. Get to the point because it's 4 in the morning. And it's not even a societal thing because nobody means it. I mean, gosh, and I know that she's working through her own stuff, so it's not a literal question, but the figurative question is, gosh, what are you apologizing for?
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
if I can jump off of that for sure, so much of it, I encourage people to just look at: Are you actually guilty of something? Did you do something? Like, have you committed an offense, a crime, like done something that you're guilty of, right? Or is it shame? Are you feeling like you are bad? Are you feeling like you should feel bad? Are you feeling like you should be small? Is it something that was put on you versus is it something that you put into the world? Because if I've like actively harmed you, I want to go and say sorry. Like, I am so sorry that happened.
Sure,
But
absolutely.
if it's just a sense of me being like, I'm going to share my opinion, and blank societal thing tells me I shouldn't have an opinion because that's bad, get out of here. Like, I'm going to share it and not apologize for it.
Okay. That's And I believe that you do that most of the time. That's easy to say here. I think you're following me where I'm going to go here. But do you still actually struggle with that in certain
Oh,
areas?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I find myself, and it's the toughest for me in written correspondence. If I'm sending a text message, an email, a DM, like things like that, I feel that pressure of being annoying. And so I will have to delete the I'm sorry sometimes when I'm typing things, or like delete the my apologies but, or things like that, because in written message I still struggle with feeling like I'm annoying or bothering people.
Mm. I don't know if I felt like I was ever bothering people by even to less and less each day now, but even to this day, there's times where I just won't share. It's not a negative opinion, but it is an opinion of you're doing something off, or look, you need to get your head up because you're going to run into this wall. But I care about you. So sometimes if I say that, it's going to start a fight, or I don't know. Um, it's weird that way. We all struggle, and that's why I wanted to say. I'm glad that you got it. That it's easy to sit in an interview. It's easy to sit on a podcast and say this is what we do. But the reality is, nobody does it all the time.
Right.
What is something that in the last year got you down?
So when you say got me down, like as far as just like
So you're
really,
optimistic, you're not negative. But what's something that you're just like it got you, and you were just negative, and then after you breathe, you went, "Holy crap, that's not me," and you pulled back up.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, in this last year, I had a relationship fail miserably from being cheated on, and that was something that tanked me so bad
Mm,
because there was just a sense of heartbreak, of betrayal, of what you thought your life was going to be like not looking like that anymore. And it really took a lot of journaling, a lot of gratitude lists, a lot of things like that to bring myself back up and be like, okay, yes, but I'm still me. These are the things that weren't taken away from me. This is still who I am. This is still where I want to go. These are my tracks. And it was a lot to pull myself up from that and not to just be like, okay, I'm going to wallow, I'm going to be bitter, I'm going to be hateful. Like I had to really push out of that. And that was a lot.
was there any self blame?
Oh, of course. Yeah. Naturally. Running
Yeah.
through all the possibilities of what could I have done different to predict this, right? How could I have caught this sooner? How could I have made this not hurt me by not being attached, right? But it's one of those things where I love people so deeply and I'm not ashamed of that. And I'm glad that I attach to people the way that I do because it's a part of, like I said, connection being my purpose. It's a part of who I am. And when I feel a lot of pain, it just means that I've also felt a lot of love. And I've had to give myself acceptance for that and acknowledge that the love is worth it.
That's amazing. Um, I'm gonna address some of the stuff that caused rights here in a minute, but The other question out of that is one of the levels I've gotten to in my life is saying thank you to the negatives. Like we literally just terminated somebody in a very hard way the other night. And I was like, but thank you. Thank you for showing me right now that where it's not going to hurt me, the company, nobody got hurt seriously in this. It's just a bad situation that I didn't want to have happen. But thank you for showing me that you can't go to the next level with me and that you're not going to get hurt. I'm not going to get hurt. But that took a while. And I've never, to my knowledge, no. Oh my God. Okay. Nick, I think we need to have an intervention. I said I'm going to address some of the things that cause, but this is, but sorry, I'll stop. All right. Look, get Nick's information. It's only $500 an hour. You can afford it. It's fine. And get some therapy. Okay.
$500 an hour.
but uh, I'm teaching my staff that they're talking about how sometimes we're hurting for some staff for technicians and whatnot, and they're like, yeah, we're interviewing people and they seem really interested and really good, and then they ghost us, and went awesome, and like, what do you mean awesome? Like that means they weren't the people, but
Yeah,
it took
not for
me
us.
so long, and I've been working this company for 3.5 years now, and the first year and a half it was all personal, and every time I had to counsel somebody or coach or fire them, I was very emotional and negative about it inside. Some self-blame, and some of it is, what can I learn? What could I have done differently to guide or better? But now it's to the point of, I know that I've got processes and people in place that I'm doing everything that I can consciously do right now. And I'm being blunt and open about. You think I talk like this on the podcast? I talk like this everywhere. Words mean things, motivation, just blunt about what I want about things. And then I had to understand the hardest lesson of all. Choices have consequences, and I'm not choosing for you to make those choices. You're choosing for you.
Yeah.
And man, that's so hard to let go. Um, so I do want to talk about some of these things. The apology sometimes, Cause says, is a Southern thing. I'm sorry you're not understanding that I'm telling you you're an asshole. You, Cause, would love this t-shirt I saw. It's like, I would love to try to see your point of view, but I can't get my head that far up my ass.
Yep.
I love that one. And
Yes.
then she talked about sometimes her first reaction is that I'm wrong. I'm the one in the wrong. After processing, I can stand up for myself. That's a hard one, right? Because sometimes that processing is days or weeks, and then you regret letting somebody run over you yet again. And I'm speaking from experience, right? Not in her life, but that's the human experience, isn't it, Nick?
Absolutely. And processing those things gets easier the more you do it. The more you recognize who you are and what your boundaries are and what space you're allowed to take up and things like that, the processing time can get shorter. It can get easier and become, more natural, more like something you lead with. But it's a process, and for a lot of people, it's a process. Through therapy, through coaching, through things like that. But also just to what you were saying, about things that are kind of like turnaround things. I saw this bumper sticker. I was just in the grocery store parking lot, and this bumper sticker just said, "Where would you be without your story?" And I was just like, well, I didn't expect to be punched in the face in this grocery store parking lot, because it honestly really hit me. And it was a moment where I was just like standing there beside this other person's car, letting bitterness go from my heart. Because I was like, yeah, all of these past traumas and things like that put me right here. And I love Nick. Like, I love who Nick has become and what he's doing and the point of me at the place that I am. And if it wasn't for all this crap, it wouldn't happen. I wouldn't be here.
Something that I forgot to touch on, that we touched on before the show, I do want to bring up here now, is I asked you what you do for fun. And what do you do? What's the one of the things you do for fun?
Yeah, one of the things I do for fun is like just keep sidewalk chalk with me. I'll draw with sidewalk chalk on my back patio. I'll take it to the park. I love having a medium where I can express myself creatively, but it's very impermanent. It doesn't put pressure or stress on me. I can just go with it, and I really love that.
And when you told me that, because we discussed this a little bit, but that's and I asked you a question, that's what we're gonna hit here, is that impermanence, that idea of impermanence, of just flowing in the moment and changing things, and I can do this, and then it may not go away, it may go away for a while. We can do all, what is something that as creators we can do that's impermanent because what's the voice in our head says the internet's forever, right? And oh, I recorded this out there. I'm telling you, it's not out there forever. There's hundreds of shows I've done that I didn't save in an archive that I can't find anymore. It's not always permanent. But what's some of the sidewalk chalk versions of creativity that people can latch onto?
Yeah, that's such an interesting question. And I think, it's really just almost just allowing yourself to tap into the mentality of the impermanence, of the sense that things can change, that things can come and go, that things can be nebulous, and be that in your space, right? Like taking your recording space and having something on your desk that means something to you right now. It might not mean something later. It might get moved. It might be on screen. It might be off screen, but it has some meaning to you. Like just allowing your space and allowing your process with things to be open, because obviously if we're recording things it feels permanent, it feels like we have to be right, it feels like something like that. But I encourage everyone to just be open to growth and to changing and to admitting that you're wrong if you find out that you are, and things like that, because it can be a lot more nebulous or a lot more impermanent than it feels when we're trying to white knuckle everything.
Yeah. And Kaz says this statement earlier about I always worry, and caps always worry that I'm bothering people. Change the word from bothering to blessing.
Yeah.
And that plays into my ego. That plays into my thought process. I do question myself. I talked earlier about holding things back, but I'm not afraid to say something to somebody like that's awesome, or hey, I would try this, or I'd try that. And I don't think I'm bothering anybody because it's a moment in time. If
Yeah.
they really get hung up that I said something to them, maybe someday they'll ask themselves why they spent 3 days worrying about that dude who said something to them for 5 seconds. Because I'm not worried about it at all. Uh, I was, I even with my wife. Again, we've been together 20. Well, being together 24 years. We're married 23, and even the other day, she snapped off at me and went, "I'm sorry. I'm trying to talk to you like a human being. My bad. Would you like to reset?" And it was just a moment because I used to get really angry with some of these fights, but it was just she was tired. It was just a moment. She felt like I wasn't listening to her, but I was. I was just I didn't have an answer for her, so I just tossed it right back to her. It's all good. And Cause is typing up. Oh, look at that, Cause. It's time. I'm sorry, your session's over. It's time to pay the doctor bill. So see Nick's receptionist as you go out. Thank you. Now she's saying a great Gen X comment here, but Nick, it is. I would talk to you for hours, and I definitely want to have you come back and talk about. We can talk about fandom. We can talk about anything you want to talk about, but I definitely think that you need to tell people how they can find you professionally if you're willing to, because you are on point. You got it. And I'm like, I almost gonna want to kick my recliner back. Like, all right, Doc, hold on. Let me really get into my childhood, Nick. Hold on, I got you. But you've got so much grace and patience, and that optimism is part of who you are, and that's a beautiful thing. It's there's no such thing as a bad day. There can be tough days, there can be rough days, there can be dark days, but there's no such thing as a bad day unless you own it bad. And that's the embodiment. I see it in your photo for your promo. I see it in yourself now. I saw it in your writing when you reached out. I believe you emailed me directly because Regina had told you to reach out to me, or she had sent you had applied for attending pro, and she's like, hey, can you use this person, and so on and so forth. And the way she approached it was not just a random hey, this person applied, what do you think? It was, hey, we kind of would like to work with this person, what can you do? And even in the writing of everything that you do, that optimism comes through, that energy comes through, that confidence of I've got something to add to the conversation comes through. And if you can write a book on how to achieve that, uh, you'll be a best-selling author for sure. But where can they find you, Nick?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at cosplay.and.optimism. I put a lot of like encouraging things on my stories. I show what conventions I'm speaking at, having panels at. And I also tend to reply to DMs for connecting people with referrals, resources, things like that. And also, professional inquiries, looking for therapy, things like that. I can be reached through email at Nich, which is NICH, at wintertospringwellness.com.
So that last part down for me. I got the NICH at Winter Spring Wellness.
wintertospringwellness.com.
Like Tia, winter to spring wellness. Got it. Very cool. Well, thank you for those of you who came out live tonight, and for those of you who are downloading the show and watching it. The podcast will be out officially on Finding the Stories. That is one of these live episodes I'm recording for that, and it's been more of a therapy session than a story, but it's been great, Nick, and definitely want to have you back on more doing whatever we're going to do throughout the year on this digital media stuff, and then of course panels, tons of panels, and I believe you are an attending pro already for this year.
Yes, I am.
That is awesome sauce. For those of you catching this video, the panel submissions for the DC Digital Media track close at the end of March 31st, cutting it off. And so then I'm going to really start. I've already done some programming, but we're going to really start filtering through everything and program. And the best problem I ever have is I have too many great panels submitted to figure out how to get them all in. But you can find out more about that. You can go to Linktree, linktr.ee, but it's Linktree/DC Digital Media Track is our Linktree. And it has the second or third box up there is submit your panel. So you can do that. That is definitely coming up. Definitely follow at Cosplay and Optimism. Do you do any TikTok?
I do not at this point, no.
We gotta get you on. I think you'd be great on TikTok. 1 minute therapy sessions. Hey, I saw this bumper sticker. Let me tell you how it changed my life. And
right.
But Instagram is your big platform. I'll follow you there. Won't be a lot of interaction because my platform is TikTok. It just resonates with me, and that's something else that's what we could talk about next time is the psychology of the platform and who fits where.
Okay.
It probably won't be as great as I think it is right now, but in my mind, it's going to be awesome.
We'll make it great.
We'll make it great. There you go. Finding the Story season 1 is out. Season 2 is being processed, and this will be part of probably season 3 or a very big season 2. So definitely the videos are going to be on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch for 2 weeks. The rest of them pretty much permanently. And you can follow all of my stuff on Linktree/RGOP42. We thank you for coming out. Next week, it might be me solo. I don't know. We're going to figure it out. I'm going to reach out to a few people, see what happens. Tyra is teaching Con-Ed classes for adults through Kennesaw State. So she'll be tied up the next 6 more weeks, I think it is, teaching classes. So Nick, thank you so much. This has been a great conversation. I very much appreciate you being on. And well, I don't even know how to wrap this out. So you know what, people? Until next time, go do your research and follow Batman.